They promised a combination of the strategic turn-based gameplay of a Total War campaign with the intense action of Company of Heroes skirmish gameplay. But the reality, though, was something that fell much shorter than the expectation. When Relic announced Company of Heroes 3, I was genuinely excited. Company of Heroes was one of my favorite RTS games, actually, one of my favorite strategy games, period. And the promise, the headline feature, at least from what gaming outlets talked about the most, was this total war like Italian Peninsula dynamic campaign. I thought it sounded exactly like the kind of evolution the series needed, at least in single player. Now, 3 years after release, Company of Heroes 3 campaign still hasn't quite landed for me. The North African story campaign lost me almost immediately by like mission 2. In my opinion, this is the weakest campaign in the series, but that Italian dynamic campaign, I was still hoping and wishing that this was going to bring me back to Co 3 someday once Relic fixed it and improved it significantly, because it did launch in a pretty unfinished state. And to be fair to Relic, they did fix major bugs and issues, and then in the 2.0 anniversary update, they made a lot of improvements on the balance, costs of companies, and even the unique abilities of veterans, specifically for this campaign as well. I still wouldn't say it's great, it's playable, but nowhere close to being the Total War like World War II campaign we had hoped for. But it also reveals that maybe Relic's experiment with this dynamic campaign has somewhat failed. And perhaps they have given up on it now rather than reworking the mechanics for it. To be fair, I don't think the Italian campaign is terrible. As I said, it's okay, it's playable. There is some variety in terms of the battle groups you can play as in the campaign. But what this campaign genuinely felt like, that this was just an interface, an artificial layer on top of a string of skirmish maps or even some missions. Yeah, this didn't feel like Total War. In fact, I'd say what they did in Dawn of War, the Dark Crusade, territory conquest mode was much more engaging than this. This dynamic campaign today is just a footnote in the history of this game's launch. The player base has moved on from this single player mode. Relic has moved towards its comfort zone of supporting the multiplayer scene with new battle groups and DLCs. And of course, now we have the final standalone, pun absolutely intended. It's a game mode that's coming soon, which highlights how people actually play Company of Heroes 3 today. Most players ignore the single player campaigns. That is not the main focus of the game. I get it. In fact, it's the least impressive part of the game. And Relic obviously knows this, as they have probably all the data they need to show them where the community is spending their time on. And definitely co-op AI skirmishes are a big thing in Company of Heroes, even from the earlier games. So it makes sense why they are releasing Final Stand instead of reworking the dynamic campaign mechanics to try to salvage it. Which, to be fair, I can totally understand. Relic isn't the company it used to be. They are definitely a much smaller company today after going independent from Sega and laying off a bunch of staff. So they need to put their limited resources on stuff they know fans of their games would be excited for. But I have to admit, a little bit of hope has been dashed. I feel a tad bit disappointed. As a strategy gamer who loves playing single player campaigns and also a big fan of Total War games, historical Total War, I might add, the Italian dynamic campaign I felt was a missed opportunity. Dynamic turn based campaigns a la Total War would be a much more replayable single player experience. I mean, this is a World War II campaign, and this dynamic campaign could have given the entire thing a completely new strategic depth. It's like adding in a little bit of an operational level war game. Simplified, of course, with things like supply and logistics. I mean, I'm not expecting Hearts of Iron level of complexity here, but something a bit more deeper than the shallow experience we have now. Ironically, it reminds me of how Creative Assembly has abandoned the story campaign of Warhammer 3. I think it's called Chaos Undivided. Creative Assembly is also focusing on new content for the Immortal Empires campaign. I like story focused campaigns, and Company of Heroes 3 didn't deliver on both these fronts, at least to my expectation. And you can't say Relic sucks at making single player campaigns. The first Company of Heroes and the Opposing Fronts campaigns were phenomenal. Some of the best RTS campaigns ever made. But that is maybe the old Relic. If you think about it, Relic hasn't really been all that great with their more recent efforts in single player experiences, have they? I totally understand Relic is focusing on the core part of how the community is playing. It would have been a much riskier bet for them to expand on a campaign that not many people are interested in than, to take the safer approach, which is what we are seeing today with the final stand. To be completely real with you, I am looking forward to that. I do enjoy the skirmishes in Code 3. They're great. And the pricing of the DLC was something I felt was a little off at first, but then again, I'm okay if it's to support Relic make more strategy games. But there is that question, in the back of my mind. Could Relic ever go back to the heights of their glory days? As a developer that continues to set the gold standard in RTS game design, or has that old Relic all but faded into the past? I want to hear your comments about this. What do you think of Relic's future and Company of Heroes 3 in general, or specifically that campaign? Or how do you play Code 3? What should Relic do next? Maybe I'm talking with rose tinted glasses here, but I absolutely love the first Company of Heroes campaign. As I said, I did a video about it over here. Go and watch that video and relive the memories of those glory days. Appreciate the likes and subs, it helps the channel a lot. Thanks for watching, and until next time, farewell, friends.